The rain had been falling for 3 days straight when Preston Fitzgerald first saw her through the flower shop window, and something about the way her hands moved between stems and ribbons made him forget he was supposed to be in a board meeting across town. He stood there on Madison Avenue with his $5,000 suit getting soaked, briefcase in hand, watching this woman create something beautiful out of chaos. Her dark hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and she wore a simple cream sweater dusted with pollen. She worked with the kind of focused intensity he recognized in himself, but there was something gentle about it, something that made his chest feel strange. Preston had built Fitzgerald Industries from the ground up over the past 12 years. At 33, he was worth more money than he could spend in 10 lifetimes. He had everything a man could want, everything except the ability to walk past this flower shop without stopping. This was his 5th day watching her, and he was starting to feel ridiculous about it. Inside the shop, Mara Kennedy hummed along to the radio as she finished a bouquet for the Morrison wedding. She loved mornings like this, when the shop was quiet and she could lose herself in her work. The flowers spoke their own language, and she had learned to listen. Roses for romance, peonies for bashfulness, forget-me-nots for true love. Every arrangement told a story. She had opened Blooming Hearts 3 years ago with money saved from working 2 jobs and a small loan from her aunt. It was not much, just a tiny storefront in Manhattan, but it was hers. The rent was astronomical, and some months she barely scraped by, but she could not imagine doing anything else. A movement outside caught her eye. There was a man standing in the rain, staring into her shop. Tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair plastered to his forehead. He looked expensive, even drenched. Mara felt a flutter of concern. Was something wrong? She set down the bouquet and walked toward the door. Preston saw her coming and panicked. He could negotiate million-dollar deals without breaking a sweat, but the thought of talking to this woman made his mouth go dry. Before she could reach the door, he turned and walked away quickly, cursing himself for being a coward. Mara opened the door and looked up and down the street, but the man was gone. Strange. She went back inside, shaking her head. New York was full of odd characters. The next morning, Preston told himself he would not go back to the flower shop. He had work to do, contracts to review, a company to run. But at 9:30, he found himself standing across the street, coffee in hand, watching her unlock the door and flip the sign to open. She wore jeans today and a burgundy sweater, and when she smiled at a passing jogger, Preston felt it in his stomach. This was getting out of hand. He was a billionaire, for crying out loud. He could just go in and talk to her like a normal person. Except he had not had a normal conversation with a woman in years. Every interaction felt transactional, calculated. People wanted something from him always. They saw his name in Forbes and dollar signs in their eyes, but this woman in the flower shop had no idea who he was. To her, he would just be a man. The thought was both terrifying and intoxicating. Mara was restocking the cooler when the bell above the door chimed. She called out, "I will be right with you," and finished placing the last bucket of tulips before turning around. The man from yesterday stood just inside the doorway, dry this time, in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. He had strong features, a straight nose, defined jaw, but it was his eyes that caught her. Dark brown and intense, like he was trying to solve a complicated equation. "Can I help you?" she asked, wiping her hands on her apron. Preston's prepared speech evaporated. "Flowers," he said stupidly. "I need flowers." She smiled, and it was like sunshine breaking through clouds. "Well, you came to the right place. What is the occasion?" He had not thought this through. "A gift for someone special." There was no judgment in her voice, just warm curiosity. No, I mean yes, 4. He looked around desperately and his eyes landed on the cooler. I will take all of those, Mara blinked. All of what? The tulips. All of them. All of the tulips. She thought maybe she had misheard. I have about 20 bunches in stock. I will take them. She studied him carefully. He did not look drunk or unstable, just determined. That is a lot of tulips. They are $40 a bunch. That is fine. Mara felt her customer service smile falter. $800 in tulips. Sir, maybe you should tell me what this is for. I could help you design something appropriate instead of just selling you my entire tulip inventory. Preston realized how insane he sounded. But standing here, talking to her, felt right in a way nothing had felt right in years. He did not want to leave. You are right. I apologize. I am not usually this. He searched for the word. Impulsive. It is okay. She gestured to the work table. Why do not you tell me what you are looking for and we can figure this out together? I am Mara, by the way. This is my shop. Preston. He moved toward the table, grateful for the direction. Up close, he could see the green in her hazel eyes, smell the floral scent that clung to her skin and clothes. So, Preston, who are these flowers for? He could have lied. Should have lied. But something about her open expression made him want to be honest. I do not actually need flowers. I have been walking past your shop and watching you work, and I wanted to meet you. The tulip thing was an excuse, clearly not a well-thought-out one. Mara's heart did a strange little skip. Men had asked her out before, but never like this, never with such raw honesty. You have been watching me work. That sounds creepy when you say it out loud. Preston ran a hand through his hair. I should go. I am sorry for wasting your time. Wait. She surprised herself by reaching out, her fingers brushing his sleeve. I think it is kind of sweet, strange but sweet. He looked down at where her hand touched his arm, then back to her face. Really? You could have just come in and introduced yourself. I know, I am not usually so. He trailed off. Shy, she offered. That is not a word people usually associate with me. Then what word do they use? Intimidating, ruthless, cold. He said it without pride or shame, just fact. Mara tilted her head. You do not seem cold to me, nervous maybe, but not cold. Something in Preston's chest loosened. Would you have dinner with me? I do not even know you. That is the point of dinner, getting to know each other. She bit her lip, considering. Every instinct said this was crazy. But there was something about him, something genuine beneath the expensive suit and careful words. Coffee first. I do not do dinner with strangers. Coffee when I close the shop at 6. There is a place 2 blocks down, Café Luna. I know it. Okay. Preston felt like he had just won a bigger victory than his first $1 million contract. Okay, I will see you at 6:15. 6:15. He turned to leave, then stopped. Should I still buy the tulips? She laughed, and the sound made him want to bottle it up and keep it forever. No. Save your money. Money is not really an issue. Then save your apartment space. 20 bunches of tulips would take over a small living room. He smiled, and it transformed his face from handsome to devastating. 6:15, Mara. After he left, Mara stood in the middle of her shop wondering what had just happened. She had a date. Well, coffee. With a man who had been watching her through the window like something out of a romance novel. She should probably be concerned, but instead she felt excited. The rest of the day dragged by. She helped Mrs. Chen pick out flowers for her anniversary, made a congratulations arrangement for a new baby, and designed 3 bouquets for a corporate event. But her mind kept drifting to Preston. The way he had looked at her, the honesty in his admission, the nervousness that seemed so at odds with his polished appearance. At 5:30, she closed the shop early and ran upstairs to her tiny apartment above the store. She changed 3 times before settling on dark jeans and a soft green top that brought out her eyes. A touch of makeup, hair down instead of up. She felt like a teenager getting ready for her first date. Preston arrived at Café Luna at 6 sharp. He had gone home, changed into jeans and a simple blue button-down, trying to look less like a corporate shark and more like a regular guy. His assistant had been shocked when he canceled his afternoon meetings. He never canceled meetings. When Mara walked in at 6:12, his heart actually stuttered. With her hair loose around her shoulders and a smile on her face, she was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. "Hi," she said, sliding into the booth across from him. "Hi. You look beautiful," she blushed. "Thank you, you look different without the suit." Good different or bad different, approachable different. They ordered coffee and then the questions started flowing. Preston learned that Mara had grown up in Vermont, the youngest of 4 sisters. She had moved to New York with dreams of becoming a botanist but fell in love with floral design instead. She loved old movies, hated horror films, and could not cook to save her life. Her favorite season was spring, and she still called her mother every Sunday. Mara learned that Preston had grown up in Boston, an only child raised by a single mother after his father left when he was 6. He had put himself through college working construction, started his first business at 21. He liked jazz music, ran every morning, and had a secret addiction to terrible reality TV shows. He was careful with his words when he talked about his work, saying only that he ran an investment company. "You are being vague about your job," Mara observed, cradling her second cup of coffee. Preston tensed. "It is not very interesting. You clearly work hard at it." "That suit you were wearing this morning did not come from a department store." "You noticed my suit?" "I notice a lot of things." He wanted to tell her, wanted to be honest, but he had learned the hard way that money changed things. People changed when they knew. "I have done well for myself." "But I would rather talk about you." "I already told you about me. Boring flower shop owner who lives above her store and eats takeout for every meal. Nothing about you is boring." The way he said it with such conviction made her stomach flip. "You barely know me." "I know you put your whole heart into your work. I have watched you create arrangements with this look on your face like each one is a masterpiece. I know you smile at strangers on the street. I know you hum while you work. I know you have been chewing on your bottom lip for the past 5 minutes because you are nervous, and I think it is adorable." Mara stopped chewing her lip. "You watched me that closely. I could not look away." The intensity in his gaze made her breath catch. "Preston, I have to ask, why me? You are clearly successful, obviously handsome. You could have your pick of women. Because when I look at you, I feel like I can breathe for the first time in years. Because you have no agenda, no angle. Because you are real. Everyone is real. You would be surprised." They talked until the cafe staff started stacking chairs around them. When Preston walked Mara back to her shop, the streets were dark, and the rain had started again. He held his jacket over both of them, and the closeness made her hyper-aware of every point where their bodies almost touched. At her door, she turned to face him. "Thank you for coffee. Thank you for saying yes. When can I see you again?" Relief flooded through him. She wanted to see him again. "Tomorrow, dinner this time." "Dinner, okay." He wanted to kiss her. The wanting was a physical ache. But it was too soon, too fast. Instead, he reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering against her cheek. "Good night, Mara. Good night." She watched him walk away, disappearing into the rain, and felt like her life had just tilted on its axis. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of dinners, walks through Central Park, late-night phone calls that stretched past midnight. Preston was attentive without being overwhelming, funny in a dry way that caught her off guard, and somehow both confident and vulnerable at the same time. He listened when she talked about her struggles to keep the shop afloat, offered thoughtful advice without being condescending. He held doors, remembered small details, and looked at her like she was precious. Mara found herself falling, and it terrified her. She had been in relationships before, but nothing that felt like this. Nothing that consumed her thoughts and made her heart race every time her phone buzzed. Her best friend Rachel was suspicious. They sat in the shop on a quiet Tuesday afternoon while Mara worked on a funeral arrangement and Rachel peppered her with questions. "So what does this Preston guy do again?" Rachel asked, examining a lily critically. "He runs an investment company." "Called what?" "I do not know." "We do not really talk about work." Rachel raised an eyebrow. "You have been seeing him for 3 weeks and you do not know the name of his company. Is that weird? In New York, where every guy leads with his business card. Yes, that is weird. Maybe he just wants to keep work and personal life separate. Or maybe he is hiding something." Mara's hand stilled. "You think he is married?" "No, you said you have been to his apartment, unless he keeps a second bachelor pad for his affairs. Then what would he be hiding?" Rachel shrugged. "I do not know, but something is off. He is too perfect." "He is not perfect. He is terrible at cooking. He gets grumpy if he does not have his morning run, and he has a scar on his shoulder from a construction accident that he is self-conscious about." "You have seen him shirtless." Mara felt heat creep up her neck. We have not. We have not slept together yet, but we fell asleep watching a movie at his place and he was wearing a T-shirt." "Yet. So you are planning to," Rachel, her friend, laughed. "I am just saying be careful. Guard your heart a little bit." But it was too late for that. Mara's heart was already fully invested, already imaging a future that involved waking up next to Preston and building a life together. Preston was having the same thoughts, which scared him more than any business deal ever had. He was supposed to be in London for a conference, but he had sent his second-in-command instead, unwilling to leave New York, unwilling to leave Mara. His assistant thought he had lost his mind. His board members were getting concerned, but he could not bring himself to care. The problem was the lie. Not a direct lie, but an omission. He had not told her about Fitzgerald Industries, about his real net worth, about the fact that his face had been on the cover of Fortune magazine last month. Every day that passed made it harder to come clean. Every day he was terrified she would find out on her own and think he had been deceiving her. His lawyer Marcus brought it up over lunch at Preston's office, a sprawling penthouse suite overlooking Manhattan. "You need to tell her, man. This is getting serious." "I know. So tell her." "What if she changes? What if she looks at me differently?" Marcus sighed. "Then she is not the right person. But from everything you have told me, I do not think that is going to happen. Every other woman I have dated has changed. Suddenly they want expensive things, access to my world, connections for their careers. Mara is different. You said so yourself. She is, but money changes people, or it reveals who they really are. Look, you have been happier these past few weeks than I have seen you in years. Do not sabotage it by keeping secrets." Preston knew Marcus was right. He picked up his phone and texted Mara, "Dinner at my place tonight. I will attempt to cook." Her response came quickly. "Should I bring a fire extinguisher?" He smiled. "Probably wise. 7. See you then." Preston left work early, stopped at an expensive grocery store and bought ingredients for pasta. How hard could it be? Boil water, heat sauce, done. He cleaned his apartment, which was ridiculous because he had a cleaning service, but he wanted everything to be perfect. He was going to tell her tonight. Get everything out in the open. Mara arrived at 7 on the dot with a bottle of wine and a nervous smile. Preston's apartment was gorgeous, all floor-to-ceiling windows and modern furniture, but she had been here enough times now that it felt familiar. She set the wine on the counter and kissed his cheek. "Something smells good." "That is probably your imagination. I am terrified of this sauce." She laughed and moved to the stove. Let me help. They cooked together, moving around his kitchen with an ease that felt domestic and right. She told him about a bridezilla who had thrown a fit over the wrong shade of pink. He told her about his morning run where a pigeon had dive-bombed him for his protein bar. It was normal and perfect, and Preston felt the confession building in his throat. Over dinner, Mara noticed he seemed distracted. "Everything okay?" "There is something I need to tell you." Her heart sank. Here it came. He was married, or moving, or not interested anymore. "Okay." Preston set down his fork. "I have not been completely honest with you about my work." "You are married." "What? No." He reached across the table and took her hand. "Nothing like that. I am single, I promise. It is about my company." "Your investment company, Fitzgerald Industries. Have you heard of it?" Mara frowned. The name sounded vaguely familiar. "Maybe." "We are one of the largest private investment firms in the country. We handle billions in assets. I founded it 12 years ago, and it has grown into something much bigger than I ever expected." She still looked confused. "That is great. Why were you nervous to tell me?" "Because I am not just successful, Mara. I am wealthy, very wealthy, billionaire wealthy." The word hung in the air between them. Mara pulled her hand back slowly. "Billionaire." "Yes," with a B. "Yes." She stood up, needing space to process. "You have been letting me pay for coffee." "Splitting dinner checks. You insisted on splitting." "Because I thought you were a normal guy." Her voice rose. "I thought we were equals. We are equals." "You are a billionaire, Preston. I can barely make rent some months. We are not equals." He stood too, desperate to make her understand. "Money does not define worth. You are one of the most talented, hard-working people I have ever met." "Why did you not tell me?" "Because of this. Because I knew it would change things." "Of course it changes things. You have been lying to me for weeks." "I never lied. I just did not tell you everything." "That is the same thing." They stared at each other across his expensive dining table. Mara felt like the floor had dropped out from under her. Everything about the past few weeks suddenly looked different. The casual way he picked expensive restaurants. The designer furniture she had assumed was financed. The confidence she had attributed to personality was probably just the security of having unlimited resources. "I need to go," she said quietly. "Mara, please, let's talk about this." "I do not know what to say right now. I need to think." "Let me drive you home." "I will take the subway. It is late." "I have been taking the subway my whole life. I think I can manage." The words came out sharper than she intended. Preston flinched. "I am sorry. I am not trying to be condescending. I just want you to be safe." Mara grabbed her purse and headed for the door. "I will text you when I get home." "Mara," but she was already gone. Preston stood in his empty apartment and resisted the urge to put his fist through the wall. He had known this would be hard, but seeing the hurt in her eyes had been worse than anything he imagined. He cleaned up dinner mechanically, his mind replaying the conversation. Maybe he should have told her sooner. Maybe he should have told her differently. Maybe. His phone buzzed 40 minutes later. "Home safe." He typed and deleted 5 different responses before settling on, "Can we talk tomorrow?" The response took so long he thought she was not going to answer. Finally, "I need a few days." Days. She wanted days. He could give her days. He had no choice. Mara spent the next 3 days in a fog of confusion. She threw herself into work, taking on extra orders, staying late to organize inventory that did not need organizing. Rachel came by with Thai food and moral support. "So he is rich, Rachel said around a mouthful of pad Thai. "Billionaire rich, like stupid rich. And this is a problem because he did not tell me. Because I have been sitting there in diners and casual restaurants, thinking we are both just normal people trying to make it in New York, and the whole time he could probably buy the restaurant." Could he buy the restaurant? I do not know. Probably. He has billions of dollars, Rachel. With a B. Okay, but does that change who he is? The guy you have been falling for. Mara set down her food. I do not know. Does it? How much of what I liked about him was real versus just the confidence that comes from never having to worry about money? That is something only you can answer. But from what you have told me, he sounds like a good guy. Hardworking, kind, attentive. Rich people can be good people. He let me worry about money in front of him. I told him about struggling with rent, about having to choose between buying new cooler equipment or paying myself a decent salary. And he just nodded and offered advice like he related. Did he offer to pay for anything? No. Did he act like your problems were trivial? No, Mara admitted. He listened. He even helped me work out a budget plan that has actually been really helpful. So he treated you with respect and did not make you feel small about your financial situation. What a monster. You are not helping. Rachel softened. Look, I get it. Finding out someone has been keeping a big secret sucks, but he told you. He could have kept hiding it, but he chose to be honest. That has to count for something. It did count for something. Mara knew Rachel was right, but her pride was stinging. She had felt so comfortable with Preston, so sure that they were building something real. Now she wondered if she had just been naive. Her phone buzzed. Another text from Preston. He had been sending them daily, nothing pushy, just small updates. Saw a dog today that looked exactly like a mop. Thought of you and that story about your sister's sheepdog. Client sent thank you note for the funeral arrangement you designed. I hope you know how much comfort your work brings people. Still cannot cook. Set off the smoke alarm trying to make grilled cheese. Despite herself, Mara smiled at that last one. She could picture him in his fancy apartment, waving a towel at the smoke detector. She missed him, missed his dry humor and steady presence, missed the way he looked at her like she was the most fascinating person in the world. She picked up her phone and typed, "Free for coffee tomorrow." The response was immediate. "Yes, Café Luna, 10, see you then." Preston arrived 15 minutes early, too anxious to wait any longer. When Mara walked in, his whole body relaxed. She was here. She was giving him a chance. "Hi," she said, sliding into their usual booth. "Hi. Thank you for meeting me." They ordered coffee, and for a moment there was awkward silence. Finally, Mara spoke. "I am sorry I ran out. You do not have to apologize. I should have told you sooner." "Yes, you should have, but I understand why you did not." She wrapped her hands around her mug. "It must be hard, not knowing if people like you for you or for your money." "It is. Every relationship I have had has fallen apart because of it. Women who seemed genuine at first becoming someone else when they realized what I was worth. I liked that you did not know. I liked being just Preston with you. But you are not just Preston. You are Preston Fitzgerald, billionaire businessman. That is part of who you are. It is what I do, not who I am. Can you really separate the two? Your work clearly defines a lot of your life." Preston leaned forward. "You are right. It does. I work long hours. I have responsibilities and obligations that do not disappear at 5 p.m. I travel sometimes. I miss social events for meetings. I carry the weight of knowing thousands of people depend on my company for their livelihoods. That is my reality, and I should have been upfront about it. Why now? Why tell me when you did? Because I am falling in love with you, and I could not keep lying by omission. Because you deserve to know what you are getting into before this goes any further." Mara's breath caught. "You are falling in love with me. Is that okay?" She wanted to say yes, wanted to throw herself across the table and kiss him, but doubt held her back. "How do I know this is real? How do I know I am not just some novelty to you, the working-class flower shop girl who is different from your usual crowd?" Pain flashed across his face. "Is that really what you think?" "I do not know what to think. Your whole world is foreign to me, Preston. Billions of dollars foreign. My money does not change how I feel about you. It does not change the way my day gets better when I see you. It does not change the fact that you are the first thing I think about when I wake up and the last thing I think about before I fall asleep. But it changes everything else. Where we can go, what we can do, the expectations and attention that probably come with dating you. I can protect you from most of that. I am private about my personal life. The media does not follow me around. Most of that, not all of it. No, not all of it. Being with me comes with complications. I would be lying if I said otherwise, but I think what we have is worth navigating those complications. Mara studied his face, the same face she had been dreaming about for weeks. Underneath the revelation about his wealth, he was still the man who had nervously asked her to coffee. Still the man who texted her photos of funny dogs and called just to hear her voice. Money did not change that. I am falling in love with you too, she said quietly, and that terrifies me. Hope bloomed in Preston's chest. We can be terrified together. We would be from completely different worlds, or we create our own world, together. She reached across the table and took his hand. I need you to promise me something, anything. No more secrets. If something is important, if it affects us, you tell me, even if it is hard. I promise, no more secrets. And I need you to respect that I am independent, I pay my own way. This is important to me. I respect that, but you have to let me spoil you sometimes. Not with money necessarily, but with attention and care. That is who I am in a relationship. Mara smiled. I think I can handle that. They left the cafe hand in hand, and Preston pulled her into an alley away from the busy street. He cupped her face in his hands, searching her eyes for any remaining doubt. Can I kiss you now? I have been wanting to for weeks. Yes. He kissed her slowly, thoroughly, like he had all the time in the world. Mara melted into him, her hands fisting in his jacket. This was real. Whatever challenges they faced, this feeling was real. When they broke apart, both breathless, Preston rested his forehead against hers. Come to dinner with me this weekend. Let me take you somewhere nice. How nice? Nice enough that you might want to wear a dress. But if you prefer jeans, that is fine too. I just want you there. A dress. Okay, I can do a dress. Saturday night, Preston picked her up in a car service. Mara had borrowed a black cocktail dress from Rachel and felt simultaneously underdressed and overdressed. But when Preston saw her, the look in his eyes made all her insecurity vanish. You are stunning, he said, helping her into the car. You clean up pretty well yourself. He wore a dark suit with a blue tie that matched his eyes, and Mara wanted to mess up his perfectly styled hair. They went to a restaurant that did not have prices on the menu, which should have made Mara uncomfortable. But Preston was so attentive, so focused on making sure she was enjoying herself, that she relaxed into the experience. They shared courses, feeding each other bites and laughing over wine. Other diners glanced their way occasionally, and Mara wondered if anyone recognized Preston. If they did, nobody bothered them. Tell me about growing up in Vermont, Preston said over dessert. What do you want to know? Everything. What was young Mara like? She smiled at the memory. Quiet. I was the baby of the family, and my sisters were all so loud and vibrant. I kind of faded into the background. I cannot imagine you fading into anything. I was happy to. Less attention meant more freedom. While my sisters were fighting over clothes and boys, I was outside studying plants and helping my mom in her garden. Is that where you got your love of flowers? Yes. My mom has this incredible garden, vegetables and flowers all mixed together. She taught me that plants are living things with personalities. Some are resilient, some are delicate, some are stubborn. You have to learn what each one needs, like people. Exactly like people, She paused. What about you? What was young Preston like? His expression grew serious. Angry mostly. My dad left. My mom worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat. I watched her sacrifice everything and decided I was never going to struggle like that, never going to be powerless. Is that why you work so hard? Why you built your company? Partially. But it is also because I am good at it. I can see patterns other people miss, opportunities in chaos. Building Fitzgerald Industries was not just about money, it was about creating something that mattered. You like it, the work. Most days, it is stressful and all-consuming. But there is a satisfaction in knowing I have built something from nothing, that I employ thousands of people and manage investments that fund retirements and college educations and dreams. Mara heard the pride in his voice and understood better. His wealth was not just about luxury. It represented security he had never had as a child, stability his mother had deserved but never achieved. Where is your mom now? Florida. I bought her a house on the beach. She says it is too big for one person, but she loves it. Finally gets to relax after all those years of working herself to the bone. You are a good son. I try to be. After dinner, they walked through Central Park despite the chill in the air. Preston draped his jacket over Mara's shoulders and kept his arm around her waist. They found a bench overlooking the lake and sat close together, watching the city lights reflect on the water. Can I ask you something? Mara said. Always. What are we doing? Where is this going? Preston turned to face her. I want this to go everywhere. I want mornings together and inside jokes. I want to meet your family and have you meet my mom. I want to fall asleep next to you and wake up to your face. I want everything, Mara. Her heart raced. That is a lot. Too much. No, scary, but not too much. She took a breath. I want that too. All of it. He kissed her then, soft and sweet, and Mara felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The next few months were a blissful haze of stolen moments and deepening connection. Preston made an effort to be more present, delegating more to his team so he could spend time with Mara. She met Marcus, who approved of her immediately. You are good for him, Marcus told her at a dinner party. He smiles now. Real smiles. Mara introduced Preston to Rachel, who grilled him thoroughly before declaring him acceptable. But if you hurt her, billionaire or not, I will destroy you, she warned cheerfully. Understood, Preston replied, not doubting her for a second. They fell into a pattern. Mornings when Preston could spare them, he would show up at the flower shop with coffee and sit at the work table while Mara filled orders, content to be in her presence. Evenings, they cooked together at his place or ordered takeout at hers. Weekends were for long walks, museum visits, or lazy mornings in bed. Preston was careful not to overwhelm her with his wealth. When she mentioned her cooler was dying, he offered to help her find a good used one, not buy her a top-of-the-line replacement. When her aunt invited her to Vermont for Thanksgiving, he accepted the invitation to join without chartering a private jet, booking them normal plane tickets instead. Meeting Mara's family was terrifying. Her parents still lived in the farmhouse where she grew up, and her 3 sisters descended with their families in a chaos of noise and affection. Preston was used to quiet, controlled environments. The Kennedy family was anything but. So you are the billionaire, Mara's oldest sister Deanne said bluntly, blocking his path to the kitchen. I am Preston, he replied evenly. Our Mara does not need someone who is going to make her feel small or use her as a tax write-off or charity case. Diane, Mara appeared, mortified. Stop interrogating him. It is okay, Preston said. He looked Deanne in the eye. Your sister is the strongest person I know. She built a successful business from nothing in one of the most expensive cities in the world. I do not make her feel small. She makes me want to be better. Deanne studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Good answer. You can date my sister. I appreciate the permission, Preston said dryly. By the end of the weekend, he had won over the entire family. He played board games with the nieces and nephews, helped Mara's dad fix a fence, and listened to her mother talk about her garden with genuine interest. Watching him with her family, seeing how he fit into the chaos, Mara fell even more in love. On the drive back to New York, she rested her head on his shoulder. Thank you for surviving that. I liked your family. They are loud and overwhelming, but you can feel how much they love each other. They liked you too. My dad never lets anyone help with projects. That was his seal of approval. What about your mom? She pulled me aside this morning and told me you are a keeper. Exact words. That man looks at you like you hung the moon. Do not let him go. Preston lifted her hand and kissed her knuckles. I have no intention of going anywhere. Christmas brought new challenges. Preston's social calendar filled with obligatory parties and charity galas. He asked Mara to accompany him, wanting her by his side but worried about throwing her into the deep end of his world. I do not know if I can do this, Mara said, staring at the invitation to the Fitzgerald Industries holiday gala. 1,000 people, all business associates and society people. You do not have to come if you are not comfortable. I will understand. But you want me there. I always want you with me, but not if it makes you miserable. Mara thought about it. This was part of his life. If they were going to build a future together, she could not avoid this world forever. Okay, I will go, but you have to promise to stay with me. I do not know how to schmooze with billionaires. You do not schmooze, you just be yourself. That is all I need. She went shopping with Rachel, finding a deep blue gown that made her feel like a princess. Rachel Wolfe whistled when Mara tried it on. Preston is going to lose his mind. It is too much. It is perfect. You are going to fit right in with all those fancy people. But at the gala, Mara felt completely out of her depth. The venue was a historic mansion, decorated within an inch of its life. Women dripped in diamonds and designer gowns. Men in tuxedos discussed mergers and stock options. She clutched Preston's arm like a lifeline. Breathe, he murmured in her ear. You are the most beautiful woman here. I am a flower shop owner. I do not belong at this. You belong wherever you want to be, and I want you here. He introduced her to colleagues and clients, always with a hand at the small of her back, always making sure she felt included in conversations. When a particularly snobbish woman made a comment about quaint little shops, Preston shut it down immediately. Mara owns one of the most successful boutique florists in Manhattan. She designs for high-profile weddings and events. Her work is art. The pride in his voice made Mara stand a little taller. Later, they escaped to a balcony for air. The December night was cold, but Mara welcomed it after the stifling ballroom. Preston wrapped his arms around her from behind. I am sorry that woman was rude, he said. It is fine. I am sure I will have to get used to people judging me for not being part of your world. You are part of my world, the most important part. She turned in his arms. This is your life, these parties, these people. Can we really make this work long term? Do you want to make it work? Yes, so much yes. But I am scared, Preston. Scared I am going to lose myself trying to fit into your life. Then do not fit. Be exactly who you are, and I will make sure my life has room for you, both our lives. We will figure it out together. Promise. I promise. He kissed her forehead. Come on, let's get out of here. I have fulfilled my social obligations. I would rather be eating pizza on your couch. They snuck out of his own gala, laughing like teenagers, and ended up at their favorite pizza place in their formal wear. The owner took one look at them and shook his head. You two are crazy. Crazy in love, Preston said, and Mara's heart soared. The new year brought change. Mara's shop had a pipe burst in January, flooding the space and destroying inventory. She called Preston in tears, standing in 2 inches of water surrounded by ruined flowers. He was there in 20 minutes. "What do you need?" "I do not know. Insurance will cover some of it, but I am going to be closed for weeks. I will lose clients, lose income." Panic clawed at her throat. "I cannot afford this." Preston wanted to write her a check, solve all her problems immediately. But he knew that was not what she needed. "Okay, let's break this down. First, document everything for insurance. Take photos, make lists. Then we call your insurance company and a restoration service. We will get you up and running as fast as possible." "You think I am letting you handle this alone?" He rolled up his sleeves and helped her salvage what they could. He made calls to contractors, used his connections to expedite permits, and never once made her feel incompetent or incapable. When she tried to thank him, he just shook his head. "This is what partners do. We show up." The shop was closed for 3 weeks. During that time, Preston's assistant mysteriously set up a temporary online ordering system for Mara's clients and arranged for her to work out of a warehouse space. When Mara found out, she confronted him. "Preston, this is too much. It is just resources I already had access to. I did not buy you anything, I just made a few calls. Still, you cannot just swoop in and fix things." "Why not? If I can help, why should not I? Because I need to be able to stand on my own feet." He took her hands. "You are standing on your own feet. You have been standing on your own feet since you were 22 years old. Letting someone help you occasionally does not make you weak. It makes you smart." She wanted to argue, but he had a point. Her pride had almost cost her business. "Okay. But from now on, ask me before you do things. Even if your intentions are good. Deal?" When the shop reopened, freshly renovated with new flooring and an upgraded electrical system, Mara felt a surge of gratitude and accomplishment. She had survived a crisis. And having Preston by her side had made it bearable. Spring came, and with it, a new opportunity. A high-profile wedding planner reached out about designing flowers for a celebrity wedding. The exposure would be incredible for Mara's business. The problem was the timeline. She would need to hire temporary help, rent additional cooler space, and work around the clock for 2 weeks. "I should do it, right?" she asked Preston over dinner. "It is exactly the kind of job that could take my business to the next level. You want to do it. I am terrified. What if I screw it up? What if the flowers do not hold up or the bride hates my designs? Those are risks. But you are talented enough to handle it. The question is whether you want to take on that stress." Mara thought about it. She had spent 3 years playing it safe, taking jobs she knew she could handle. Maybe it was time to take a risk. "I want to do it. Then I will help however I can. You need an extra set of hands, I am yours." The 2 weeks leading up to the wedding were brutal. Mara worked 18-hour days, surviving on coffee and determination. Preston showed up every evening after work, still in his suit, and helped wherever she needed. He hauled buckets, stripped thorns from roses, and never complained. The night before the wedding, they worked until 3 in the morning finishing the final arrangements. Mara's hands were raw, her back ached, but the flowers were stunning. Cascading orchids, romantic garden roses, and delicate baby's breath in shades of ivory and blush. "They are perfect," Preston said, standing back to admire their work. "You think so? I know so. You are going to blow everyone away tomorrow." The wedding was a massive success. The bride cried happy tears when she saw the ceremony arch. Photos of Mara's floral designs ended up in 3 major wedding magazines. Her phone started ringing with new inquiries. She had done it. That night, Preston took her to the same restaurant where they had their first real date. Over champagne, he reached across the table and took her hand. I am so proud of you. Watching you work, seeing your talent and dedication, it reminds me why I fell in love with you. I could not have done it without you. Yes, you could have, but I am glad you did not have to. Mara looked at this man who had somehow become her everything. I love you. I do not think I say it enough, but I do. I love you so much it scares me sometimes. I love you too, and I have something to ask you. Her heart started pounding. Was he going to propose? Here, now, but Preston did not pull out a ring. Instead, he pulled out a key. Move in with me. Mara blinked. What? I know your lease is up next month. Move in with me. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want our lives to be completely intertwined, not just connected. I want to come home to you every day. Your apartment or mine. Mine has more space. But if you prefer yours, we can make it work. She thought about her tiny apartment above the shop, the one bedroom she had called home for 3 years. Then she thought about Preston's spacious place with the view of the city, and the kitchen they had already cooked 100 meals in together. Your place, but I pay half the rent. Mara, half or no deal. I am serious, Preston. I cannot live in a place I could never afford on my own without contributing. He knew better than to argue with that look in her eyes. Okay, half. But for the record, you are the most stubborn woman I have ever met. Is that why you love me? One of many reasons. They toasted to new beginnings, and Mara felt like her life was finally coming together. She had the career she wanted, the man she loved, and a future that looked bright. Moving in together was an adjustment. They had to negotiate closet space, bathroom schedules, and whose furniture stayed and whose got donated. Preston learned that Mara was constitutionally incapable of closing cabinets. Mara learned that Preston was neurotically neat and could not relax if there were dishes in the sink. But they also learned the rhythms of cohabitation. Morning coffee together before work became sacred time. They took turns cooking dinner, though Mara usually supervised Preston's attempts. Sunday mornings were for sleeping in and lazy lovemaking. Friday nights were date nights, no matter how busy their weeks had been. 6 months into living together, Preston's mother came to visit. Patricia Fitzgerald was a small woman with kind eyes and her son's determined chin. She hugged Mara like they were old friends. So you are the woman who tamed my workaholic son, Patricia said, settling onto the couch with tea. I do not know about tamed, Mara replied. He still works too much, but he leaves the office before midnight now. That is progress. Patricia smiled. Thank you for loving him. He deserves to be happy. He makes me happy too. Over the weekend, Mara watched Preston with his mother. The way he fussed over her comfort, made sure she had everything she needed, showed her around the city with patient enthusiasm. She saw the boy he must have been, devoted to the woman who sacrificed everything for him. On Patricia's last night, she pulled Mara aside while Preston was making coffee. Can I tell you something? Of course. Preston's father leaving destroyed him. He was only 6, but he understood that his dad chose to walk away. For years, I watched him build walls to protect himself. He dated, but he never let anyone in, not really. Patricia took Mara's hand. Then he met you. And for the first time since he was a little boy, I see him letting someone matter. You matter to him more than anything, more than his company or his money. That is not something he gives easily. Mara felt tears prick her eyes. He matters to me too, more than I knew was possible. I know. I see the way you look at him. You are good together. You balance each other. That night after Patricia had gone to bed, Mara and Preston sat on the balcony under the stars. Your mom is wonderful. She likes you. She told me I better not mess this up. Smart woman. Preston pulled her into his lap and she curled against his chest. I have been thinking about the future. What about it, specifically our future, where we are headed? Mara's pulse quickened. And where are we headed? I want to marry you, Mara. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday. I want you to be my wife, the mother of my children, my partner in everything. I just want you to know that is where my head is at." She twisted to look at him. "That is where my head is at too. Yeah, yeah, I want the whole life with you, Preston. Marriage, kids, growing old together. All of it." He kissed her, deep and thorough, pouring all his love into it. When they broke apart, both were breathless. "Soon," he promised. "I will make it official soon." 3 months later, he did. They went back to Vermont for a long weekend. Preston told Mara he wanted to go hiking, which was suspicious since he usually preferred running to hiking. But she went along with it, letting him lead her up a trail to a lookout point that overlooked the valley. The view was stunning, autumn leaves painting the landscape in shades of red and gold. Mara was admiring it when she turned and found Preston on one knee. "Oh my God," she breathed. "Mara Kennedy, you walked into my life and changed everything. You made me believe in love, in partnership, in a future that is about more than just work and success. You make me want to be the best version of myself. You make me laugh. You call me out when I need it, and you love me despite all my flaws. I cannot imagine my life without you in it. Will you marry me?" He opened a box to reveal a ring. Not ostentatious or flashy, but a perfect, brilliant cut diamond on a simple platinum band. Elegant and timeless, just like their love. "Yes," Mara said through happy tears. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." Preston slipped the ring on her finger and stood, lifting her off her feet and spinning her around. She laughed and cried and kissed him, and everything felt perfect. They told her family that night over dinner. Her sisters squealed and demanded to see the ring. Her father shook Preston's hand with gruff approval. Her mother just smiled like she had known all along. "When is the wedding?" Deanne asked. "We have not gotten that far," Mara said. "He just proposed a few hours ago." "Spring," Preston suggested. "Spring wedding with all your flowers in bloom." Spring sounds perfect. The next few months were a whirlwind of planning. Mara wanted something intimate, family and close friends only. Preston would have given her whatever she wanted, but he was relieved she did not want a massive society wedding. They chose a small venue in upstate New York, a historic inn surrounded by gardens. Mara designed all the flowers herself, of course. Peonies and garden roses, tulips and ranunculus, everything soft and romantic. Her sisters were bridesmaids, and Marcus stood up as Preston's best man. They wrote their own vows, promising to choose each other every day, to weather storms together, to build a life full of love and laughter. When Preston saw Mara walking down the aisle in a simple lace gown, her face radiant with joy, he felt his throat close with emotion. This incredible woman was choosing him, choosing their life together. When Mara saw Preston waiting for her at the altar, his eyes full of love and promise, she knew she was exactly where she belonged. This man who had watched her through a window and been brave enough to finally walk inside had become her whole world. They said their vows, exchanged rings, and kissed as husband and wife while their loved ones cheered. The reception was full of laughter and dancing, heartfelt toasts and happy tears. Preston danced with his mother, Mara danced with her father, and then they danced together as the sun set over the gardens. "Hello, wife," Preston murmured in her ear. "Hello, husband. Any regrets?" "Not a single one. You. Only that I did not walk into that flower shop sooner," she laughed. "You walked in at exactly the right time." Their honeymoon was 2 weeks in Italy, exploring villages and eating incredible food and making love in beautiful hotels. They talked about their future, about the family they wanted to build, about dreams and hopes and plans. When they returned to New York, they settled into married life with surprising ease. The transition from living together to being married felt natural, like a deepening of what they already had. Preston still worked long hours, but he made sure to be home for dinner most nights. Mara's business continued to grow, and she hired 2 full-time employees to help manage the increased demand. A year into their marriage, Mara started feeling tired all the time. At first, she thought it was just the stress of running the business. But when her exhaustion was accompanied by nausea, Rachel dragged her to the doctor. The pregnancy test was positive. Mara stared at it in disbelief. They had talked about kids but had not been actively trying. This was a surprise, an unexpected gift. She called Preston immediately. "Can you come home?" she asked, her voice shaky. "What is wrong? Are you okay?" "I am fine. I just need you here." He left a meeting and was home in 20 minutes, finding Mara on the couch with tears streaming down her face. "What happened?" She held up the pregnancy test. "We are having a baby." Preston's world tilted. "A baby." I know we were not planning this yet, but he kissed her, cutting off her worried rambling. "This is the best news I have ever gotten. We are having a baby." "You are happy, Mara." "I am ecstatic." Terrified but ecstatic. They held each other, laughing and crying, talking about this new adventure they were about to embark on. Preston was already mentally baby-proofing the apartment, planning for a nursery. Mara was thinking about names and tiny clothes and how their lives were about to change completely. The pregnancy was relatively easy. Mara worked up until her 7th month, when her doctor suggested she slow down. She hired a manager for the shop, someone she trusted to maintain the standards she had built. It was hard letting go of control, but Preston reminded her that parenthood was going to require flexibility. Their daughter was born on a sunny May morning, after 14 hours of labor. She came into the world screaming, a tiny bundle of fury with Preston's dark hair and Mara's eyes. They named her Lily Patricia, after Mara's favorite flower and Preston's mother. Holding his daughter for the first time, Preston felt something shift in his chest. This tiny person was depending on him. He had built a billion-dollar company, but nothing had ever felt as important as this moment. Mara watched her husband cradle their daughter with such tenderness and fell in love with him all over again. "You are going to be an amazing father." "I am going to try." "God, she is so small." "You will do great. We will figure it out together." And they did. Parenthood was exhausting and overwhelming, and the most rewarding thing either of them had ever done. Preston took paternity leave, shocking his board but not caring about their opinions. These early weeks with his daughter were more important than any business deal. They took turns with night feedings, navigated diaper changes and bath time, and marveled at every tiny milestone. When Lily smiled for the first time, they both cried. When she laughed, it was the best sound either of them had ever heard. Mara went back to work part-time when Lily was 3 months old, but she found her priorities had shifted. The shop was still important, but it was not everything anymore. Her family came first, this beautiful life she and Preston had built. Preston restructured his role at Fitzgerald Industries, delegating more to his executive team so he could be more present at home. He had spent years building his company. Now he wanted to build memories with his family. On their 3rd wedding anniversary, they had a quiet dinner at home after putting Lily to bed. Preston poured wine and led Mara to the balcony where they had had so many important conversations. "Thank you," he said, pulling her close. "For what?" "For taking a chance on me. For seeing past the money and the walls and the fear. For building this life with me. You made it easy to take a chance. You showed up every single day. You chose me. I will always choose you. In every lifetime, every version of reality, I would choose you." She kissed him, pouring 3 years of love and partnership into it. "I would choose you too, every time." They stood together under the stars, wrapped in each other's arms, thinking about the journey that had brought them here. A chance encounter through a flower shop window had turned into the greatest love story either of them could have imagined. Inside, their daughter slept peacefully. Below them, the city lights twinkled. And in Preston and Mara's hearts, there was only gratitude for the beautiful, complicated, perfect life they had created together. Years later, when Lily was old enough to ask how her parents met, Preston and Mara would tell her about the flower shop, about how he had watched her mother create beauty through a window and finally found the courage to walk inside, about how sometimes love requires bravery, vulnerability, and a willingness to take a chance on something real. But that night, standing on their balcony with the woman he loved in his arms, Preston just held Mara close and thanked whatever force in the universe had led him to that flower shop window, had made him stop and watch, had given him the courage to finally go inside. Because that decision, that one moment of bravery, had given him everything. It had given him love, family, purpose, and a happiness he had not known was possible. And as Mara rested her head on her husband's chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart, she thought about that rainy day when a man had stood outside her shop looking lost. She had no idea then that he would become her entire world, that the nervous stranger would become her husband, the father of her child, her partner in all things. Life was funny that way, full of unexpected moments that changed everything, full of ordinary days that turned extraordinary, full of love stories that started with something as simple as flowers in a window and a man brave enough to finally walk inside. Their story was far from over. There would be more children, more challenges, more beautiful ordinary moments that made up a life well lived. But this moment, right here under the stars with the person who made everything make sense, this was perfection. Preston kissed the top of Mara's head. "I love you. I love you too. Always." And in that simple exchange, in those words they would say thousands more times over the years, was everything that mattered. Love, commitment, partnership, and the promise of forever. The billionaire who had everything found the one thing he had been missing in a small flower shop on Madison Avenue. And the florist who had been content with her quiet life found an extraordinary love she never expected. Together, they built something more valuable than money, more beautiful than any flower arrangement, more enduring than any business empire. They built a family, a home, a life full of love, and it all started because he watched her arrange flowers through a window and finally went inside.